Okay, guys. So if your life feels like it's going backwards, don't try to move forward immediately. Being hard on yourself is a good thing. Okay, it shows that you care. It shows that you care about your growth. It shows that you care about your results, and it shows that you have a desire to move forward and is a desire to not be stuck and stay where you are. And these are all good things. And the more intense it is, the better. However, what comes after the initial, ah, damn, I fucked up, or man, I screwed this up big time. Is it all my fault? Whatever comes after that thought loop is what determines whether you grow or whether it's just straight damage to who you are and your identity. Now, if what comes after this, like, I knew I would screw up, I'm worthless, I suck, this thought loop, or why does this always happen to me, then it is just going to be damage. And you'll always find ways to stay exactly where you are. And that is the start of self sabotage. And so there are a few subtle ways that this continues to happen, right? So you've got the perfectionistic post analysis, right? So I just need to figure out what went wrong so I don't make that mistake again, because that is framing as I am scared to screw up and I am less likely to do things where I might screw up in the future. The second is false accountability. Oh, there's no excuses. It's 100% my fault. There are so many things outside of our reality in our life that you cannot be 100% fault for everything. You can be 100% control of your actions, not what happens outside of you. Okay. The third is the should spiral. So I should be further along by now, right? But you're not. And so you have to come to accept it. The fourth is reframing as over optimization. So if I can just fix this one thing, everything else is going to click. Okay. The fifth is a disguised self compassion. So, oh, they just seem more consistent, focused, and disciplined than I am. You're downplaying yourself. Number six, there's emotional bypassing. Oh, it's fine. I'll just move on without actually processing what happened and taking into account to try to learn where can you be better. Okay. Number seven, there's the meta critic. Why do I always do this? I should be better by now. Like, it's once again, it goes kind of back to should, but like you are taking this one situation and applying it to everywhere else in your life when like if you think about it, it's absolutely not true. Right? But you're using one situation to justify everything, which continues self-sabotage in all areas of your life. The eighth, moralization of struggle. If I really cared, this wouldn't be so hard, right? Because people are selling you like, oh no, it's just so easy once you get your habits down. Once you get your habits and system in check, everything's just easy, which is bullshit because it's not. And then the ninth, identity collapse. This always happens, and therefore I can't change, and I'm just not even going to try. Why try? Okay. And so that this negative way of viewing a setback or like you're going backwards shows that you are acting as if you have no control over what your next move is. It's a very subtle victim complex or identity making its way into your psyche. And usually it's followed up by a whelp, at least I know what not to do, or at least I know what to do next time. Now, what we often need to flip it to is if you can follow that thing up, like you screwed up, you said it with, well, at least I know what not to do now, or at least I know what to do next time, then this is a good thing. It means you have an ability to recalibrate and redirect your energy and focus. And there's a subtle belief that you're going to be able to figure it out from there. And so the positive way shows you an ability to stay on goal and not give a fuck about what happens externally. This is literally what not giving a fuck looks like. Okay, this is great. This is what a good version of selfishness is, but you're also super self-aware. You know you are the one in a lane where you can actually win. And so the ways that your mind can respond appropriately to this is one, through like what's called reflective analysis. What specifically happened here, and what can I learn without judging myself? What can I take away from this without judging what I did wrong and actually know what to do next time? Then there's balanced accountability. I played a role in this, but it's not the whole story. And so now, what's the next best move I can make that would put me in a better position? All right. Third, grounded ambition. I'm not where I want to be yet, but I'm further than I was. And so progress is still progress. Four, Curious optimization. What would make this process smoother or more aligned with how I naturally operate with things, right? Best example for me has to do with if like I'm making YouTube videos. I used to try to script every little thing out, everything else. It just didn't work for me. I had a lot of resistance. But what I did learn that would work for me and make it smoother is when I go on a walk, like a 40-minute walk, I will just rant everything into some notes, like transcribe it, just talk into it. And then later that I am able to take the essence of that thing and restructure it to where it does make sense. And it makes it a lot more enjoyable because it's coming straight from me. Okay. Number 5, constructive comparison. So, like, what are they doing that's working for them? If I'm looking at somebody else that's having success with something, what are they doing that's working for them? And what can I adapt in a way that actually fits me better? Right? Because we're all unique in our own way. We all have our own experiences and life and circumstances. So, what can you take away and adopt rather than just doing everything that way? That is also how you find your lane and the things that you are best at. Okay. Number 6, emotional processing. Wow, that actually kind of hurt. I need a moment to feel it before I move forward. Processing the way that you feel about certain things, especially when it's very, very high emotionally, is going to allow you to be able to better move through things faster rather than them holding you back. Because the more you suppress, the more ingrained that it becomes until you learn to actually process it. Highly recommend reading How Emotions Are Made by Lisa Feldman Barrett. Won't go into it, may do a book review at some point, but that book has changed my life personally whenever it comes to emotions and how to deal with them. Okay. Number 7, the self-aware compassion. I noticed this pattern showing up again. That's really interesting. What is it trying to tell me? What is it telling? Like, where can I improve? What should I keep doing? What did I do really well? Okay. Then there's honoring the struggle. Number 8, this is hard because I care. Growth is supposed to stretch me. Right? It's just honoring the fact that things are going to be hard. Like there is no life where you're not going to have struggles because we do have some sort of innate thing to need a challenge of some kind. Okay. So just acknowledging that it is still going to hurt and that is a prerequisite to growth. And then the 9th, identity expansion, right? This pattern has shown up before, but I'm learning how to respond differently each time. And so the good news is, this last list of questions is it shows signs for ego growth and development, right? It takes some time, but if you are doing this, that means you are on the right track. And the goal to fixing this is understanding it's going to take time. You can change the way that you interact with the world. You can change your identity relatively quickly. It's still going to take time, but by simply starting to take note of your thoughts and what's happening, and then very simple, add comma, but after it. So if you're more on the negative side of things and you can come in and say, dang, I screwed this up. Dang, I screwed this up. I feel worthless. And you catch yourself and you can say, but that doesn't mean I'm going to be here forever and I can learn something from this. So what am I going to learn? Right? So if you can take that comma, but it discredits the first part. So your brain's like, okay, that's not entirely true. What else is good? Right? And so it's like if you're ever having a conversation or you've had a conversation with somebody and you say something that you feel is true and they go, yeah, but they're ignoring you, right? They ignored what you just said, but you can do that same thing to yourself and to your own mind. And so if you can start to have your mind respond in these ways, like I mentioned, or just adding a comma, but afterwards, you're going to have a lot of shit start to happen for you. And so responding in healthy ways responding in the healthy ways that I, mentioned, it's going to transform the relationship that you have with yourself, especially whenever you're under pressure, right? And so if we look at the positive, so reflective analysis, it builds clarity instead of like shame, right? So when you focus on learning it instead of judging, you're more open to feedback. And so you start to see patterns faster. You adapt quicker and you stop wasting your mental energy trying to defend your ego, right? Having a perspective of balanced accountability preserves your agency. You hold responsibility without collapsing into guilt or blame. And so it keeps your identity intact while still owning your role. But that's the sweet spot for growth and confidence and knowing you can overcome hard shit, right? So if you have grounded ambition, it's going to sustain your motivation long term. So you're no longer driven by guilt. You're driven by, I am getting better. And so that is what prevents the burnout. That's why so many people have burnout, because they have guilt driven urgency. Like, oh, I better get this done so and so isn't mad at me, rather than I need to get this done because like this is what is going to do, like I am going to improve from this, right? And so curious optimization encourages experimentation. So curiosity about what happened replaces self-contempt. So instead of trying to fix yourself, you explore better ways of doing things that work for you. Constructive comparison, right? It's going to turn your jealousy or your envy into some kind of strategy. You still learn from others, but it becomes a fuel and a perspective, not like something you absolutely must do. And so you start to extract principles instead of internalizing inferiority. Okay, number 6, emotional processing. It's going to prevent burnt repression and rebound. You actually feel what's happening instead of numbing out. And so it keeps emotions from turning into chronic tension, procrastination, or impulsive behavior later. And so these are some of the things that you can do, and the reason that these things are powerful, right? But the most important part that all of this does, right, if you are a negative person, you find yourself going backwards, is it moves you back into neutral, right? Whenever you are going backwards, you do not want to try to immediately move forward, okay? Because you can't take a car from reverse straight into drive, because the transmission and everything would fall out. You first have to brake, put it into neutral, and then shift directions, okay? And that's the same thing that your brain needs to work, okay? Because if you go from negative to straight positive, and you've experienced this, your brain subtly goes, bullshit, right? And so the brain already has a habitual loop of negativity. And so if you immediately try to switch, it's just not going to work, which is where a lot of typical self-help and overly positive things like is pretty useless for a lot of people, because context matters and where you're at matters, right? So the real question has to then become, how do we get to a neutral place so it's easier to move in a positive direction? And so I once had a mindset coach, shout out Sean, but he helped me overcome some of these thought loops that I was having in regards to career and money specifically, right? And so this exercise that I did really helped me out. So what you're going to do, number 1, is you're going to write the thought loop. It can literally be anything. You're just going to write it down and what's going on. But what is going on in objective reality without judgment? Just the what is happening. Not your opinions on it, not your feelings, just what is happening, right? And then second, you are going to list or recite the stories and scenarios that you are telling yourself and that your mind is saying when you look at that objective reality. It's going to be on a separate line, okay? And so you're just going to start to see how those things are interacting. You're going to see all the things that your brain is telling you about this situation. So let's say, you're underperforming at your job, okay? Objectively, it's like, okay, I didn't hit my metrics that I needed to hit in my job. Or if you're not progressing in the gym, I'm just not progressing in the gym. Okay. Then whenever you recite the stories that you're telling yourself, it's like, oh, the industry's broken, or, oh, I'm at fault and I'm just not smart enough to do this. Those are the things that you are going to continue, that you're going to write in the second line. And so then the third part of this is you are going to take those objective or the stories that you're telling yourself, and you are going to add comma, but after, and reframe it as something that you would rather think. Ideally, something that just doesn't mean anything other than, hey, this is just objective reality. And so whether it's neutral or how do I make this situation work for me? So I'm screwing up at work, but I can actually improve by doing XYZ, or by researching XYZ, or learning XYZ thing. And then the fourth part is, for each of those problems or scenarios, you list one step that you can do today easily that would move you in the direction that you want to. And sometimes it's actually not doing anything other than just having a good day. Something that I did was, I was having a rough time at work. And I decided, you know what? For just today, I like everything major that I needed to do is done. I'm literally not going to do anything. I'm just going to have a good day and be in a good mood. And lo and behold, I started to get a little bit more motivation that next day. And so sometimes what you need to do is nothing. But in the case of, like, let's say your health and fitness, say you're trying to lose a little bit of body fat and you have not been consistent in the gym. So what can you do today? Well, you can go for an extra walk. You can just do a 15-minute walk. Very low friction. Take your phone if you want to, but something to just make small steps in the right direction. And that is the key. So when you find yourself moving backwards in life, okay, try to get back to an emotional neutral spot. Okay. Add comma but after the statements in your head, and then start to see, how can I make this work for me? In what ways can this be a good thing? Where am I empowered? Because only you can fix your life. Nobody else can do it for you. So take some of these things. Hopefully it was valuable. Apply it. I'd love to hear how things went later on.